The 5th rank of the British tech tree has arguably some of the most powerful vehicles tier for tier in the game, with infamous tanks such as the Vickers MBT, Centurion Mark 10 and the dreaded Falcon. However, when it comes to premiums, you only have one available, the Centurion AVRE, or as I like to call it, Her Majesty's Keg Launcher. Alright lads, today I'm going to be talking about the weapons, performance and playstyle of the Royal Engineers modification of the Centurion Mark 5, also known as the AVRE. Starting as always with the basics, this vehicle is a rank 5 battle rating 7.0 medium tank located in the British tech tree. Being a rank 5 premium, it will be effective at researching all the vehicles between the ranks of 1 and 6. To unlock this tank, you will have to purchase it on a pack from the Guardian store. For the cost of €50, you get the tank, 2,000 golden eagles and 15 days of premium time. To purchase the expert and ace qualifications for the tank, it will cost you 480,000 silver lions and 1,200 golden eagles respectively. The tank also has a relatively low repair cost, at least by British standards, at 3,640 silver lions. Going on to the rewards, and the AVRE has a base modifier of 1.96, giving you an RP modifier of 392% with a free-to-play account and 588% with a premium account. You also have a base silver line modifier of 1.4, the same modifier found on all of the higher tier premiums. This gives you a base silver line modifier of 280% with a free-to-play account and 420% with a premium account. This is basically the exact same as 50% of all the premiums in game, so nothing really special. In terms of customization, there are several camouflages available to purchase for Golden Eagles, but unfortunately, there are no marketplace camouflages. In terms of lineups, Britain doesn't really get many battle rating 7.0 vehicles. While the FE4202 and the Conway are powerful, they don't really constitute a full lineup. Personally, I up tier the AVRE to battle rating 7.3, allowing me to bring along the Centurion Mark III, Carnarvon, and the Centurion Action X, although this does of course run the risk of being up tier to battle rating 8.3. In the remainder of this video, we're going to cover the mobility, armour and firepower of the tank, before finishing with a conclusion. If you do like these sorts of reviews, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Starting as always with the engine and performance, and the AVRE is powered by an engine producing 650 horsepower. Combined with the vehicle's weight of 52.2 tonnes, it gives the tank a power to weight ratio of 12.5 horsepower per tonne. This is actually very poor. For example, the Leopard 1 at battle rating 7.3 has a power to weight ratio of 20.8 horsepower per tonne, and the T54 1949 version has a power to weight ratio of 14.6 horsepower per tonne. This generally means you'll be facing opponents who have a significant mobility advantage over you, and it's the same thing in terms of top speed. If we take a quick look at the transmission, the AVRE can reach a top speed of 35 km per hour, as well as 12 km per hour in reverse. In comparison, again the Leopard 1 has a top speed of 66 km per hour, and the T54 can reach 51 km per hour. You are slow in terms of top speed and acceleration, giving you practically no tactical mobility. The tank does however have neutral steering, giving you somewhat better manoeuvrability, at least compared to the Soviet designs, but generally, the mobility of the AVRE is very poor. Overall, the mobility of the AVRE is atrocious for its battle rating, much like the other Centurions. Rumour has it the World War I Western Front could advance faster than a Centurion tank. Regardless, the top speed in either direction are decent, but not good enough to serve a tactical purpose. The whole traverse is also relatively poor, and makes the tank feel very sloppy to drive. The poor mobility usually leads to the AVRE being late to the battle, which makes me sad as a British person, as being late to key battles is a positively French tradition. Moving on to the armour and survivability, and the first thing to mention is the fact that the AVRE has a crew of 5 men, with 3 in the turret and 2 in the hull. This does give you rather good survivability, at least against rounds without a bursting charge. Solid shot and APDS rounds shouldn't be able to knock out 4 crew members in a single shot, which should allow you to take at least 1 hit in most engagements. But we shouldn't rush to conclusions too quickly, mainly due to the ammunition placement. Your brandy barrel sized rounds occupy the floor of the hull and some of the turret. While most rounds penetrating the turret will avoid a fiery death, an experienced opponent can aim low and detonate your ammunition in a single shot. This is a problem American mains face very frequently. One positive at least is the AVRE's addition of Armour explosive reactive armour. This gives you 30mm of protection against conventional kinetic energy rounds, but more importantly, gives you 300mm of protection against chemical weapons, effectively protecting you against the early forms of heat-of-fest rounds found frequently in and around rank 5. But moving on to the actual arm performance itself, and to test this, we'll be using the DM12 round fired by the Leopard 1. Starting as always with the lower frontal plate, or should I say the dozer blade, and we have between 250 and 300mm of protection. Remember, the DM12 round fired by the Leopard is a heat-of-fest round, so this armoured protection will be much weaker against kinetic energy projectiles. The reason for this high level of protection is due to the dozer acting as spaced armour. This works against both chemical and kinetic rounds, but has the greatest effect on the former. Moving up towards the upper frontal plate, and the part of the armour that overlaps both the dozer and the explosive reactive armour, we have over 600mm of protection against chemical rounds. On the part of the armour with just the Armour, we have slightly more than 470mm of armour. And on the parts of the hull without Armour, our protection drops again down to 150mm of armour. Moving up to the turret, and the parts not covered in ERA provide around 150mm of armour, similar to the hull. But the top part of the turret, which does indeed get ERA, has an insane amount of protection. It heavily varies from place to place, but generally provides between 500 and 700mm of protection. If we turn the camera to the side of the vehicle, then we have composite slabs running along the initial part of the hull. This gives you over 250mm of armoured protection. However, this is much less when using kinetic rounds. Moving down towards the engine area of the hull, and it provides much less armour, but still manages a respectable 140mm of protection. Moving up to the turret, and the initial part of the turret is still protected by the Armour, and this provides well over 400mm of protection. But the same cannot be said about the rest of the armour, with protection dropping down again to around 90mm of armour. And finally, the rear of the turret provides 80mm of armour, and the rear of the hull provides just 38mm of armour. Overall, the AVRE provides decent protection against most incoming rounds, at least from the front of the vehicle. Your armoured dozer provides spaced armour on top of your already decent hull armour, and the addition of ERA blocks does provide higher protection against chemical rounds, but remains largely ineffective in protecting against kinetic energy rounds. The AVRE does have that typical British stubbornness about it though. It'll keep you alive just to spite your opponent. So taking a look at the weapons and ammunition, and the British decided that instead of giving the vehicle a regular tank gun, they'd design a weapon more commonly found on a light cruiser and just slap it into a tank's hull. This is of course a 6.5-inch L9A1 demolition charge projector, firing Churchill's 165mm brandy bottles at any enemy stupid enough to spawn in. Surprisingly for a meme gun, the tank has very good vertical guidance characteristics, with 18 degrees of gun elevation and 10 degrees of gun depression, theoretically allowing you to put that great armoured turret to use. Although being mounted on a Centurion hull, arguably the best part of the regular Centurions is not present on this tank. This is due to the AVRE not featuring a gun stabiliser, making it rather vulnerable in close range engagements. The tank also carries 53 rounds in total, with a first stage ammunition rack of only 7 rounds. While this is low compared to other vehicles, if you actually manage to fire off 7 rounds in this tank then I'd be surprised. Speaking of reloads, we'll take a look at the reloading skill under the loader section of the crew. We have a base reload speed of 28 seconds, which drops down to 21 seconds with an ace crew. There's no getting around it, this is appallingly bad, and is a major weakness of the tank. Most other rank 5 vehicles are firing between every 7 and 10 seconds, twice as fast as you are. It makes the AVRE very unforgiving, as at the very best, opponents have 20 full seconds to push you if you mess up your shot. Moving on to the targeting skill under the gunner section, and we can see that you have a base turret rotation speed of 14 degrees per second, which rises to 20 degrees per second with an ace crew. This is pretty slow, but not terrible for the battle rating, and it is certainly workable. Next we move to the modifications, and I want to point out that this tank does not get access to any sort of range finding equipment, meaning you will have to rely on your crew's estimations. For reasons that will come apparent in the ammunition segment, this is very bad for the vehicle, and is one of the largest downsides of the tank. But you do have a pretty good field of view in the gunner sight, as well as a base 4.9x zoom and an optional 6x zoom. These zoom levels are okay for medium range engagements, but it is rather underwhelming at long range. We now come on to the ammunition, and just like the best British food ever made, there's only really one choice. This is of course the L33A1 Hesh round, or high explosive squash head. On impact, the soft high explosive pancakes on the outside of armour and then detonates, allowing the shock of the explosive to travel from the outside of the armour to the inside. Here, it spalls off the armour plate, causing massive internal damage. It's not really known just how realistically this has been implemented in War Thunder, and in the last few patches, most Hesh rounds have been temperamental at best. But the L33 round does seem quite reliable at the minute, as long as you contact a solid part of the armour. Hitting a track or fuel tank will usually tank the round, so make sure to take extra time when aiming. I spoke about how the lack of a rangefinder is a big issue. This is mainly due to the weapon's incredibly low muzzle velocity of 259 meters per second. This is frankly awful, and makes even close range engagements rather tricky, especially if the enemy is moving at speed. But for all of its negatives, the L33 is actually rather powerful so long as you get a good impact. The round is capable of penetrating a full 8 inches of armour, or 203mm. This is explosive penetration, mind you, so it doesn't matter what the angle the round impacts or the distance, giving you 8 inches of armour penetration at all ranges and all angles. While this does seem impressive, the drawbacks do in my opinion outweigh the positives, mainly the poor reload, especially for newer players. Apart from the main gun, the AVRE also has a coaxially mounted rifle caliber machine gun, as well as a pintle mounted rifle caliber machine gun. While useful for marking enemies, they aren't really practicable against low flying planes and those bastard little Italians. Overall, the weapon on this tank is a very mixed bag, but mainly negative. The main round is highly destructive against lightly armoured targets, but only really critically damages larger opponents, meaning you will have to pump multiple projectiles into them. Luckily, your terrible reload rate gives you plenty of time to boil the kettle, crack open a pack of digestives, and contemplate the €50 you've just wasted. To conclude, the AVRE is a good meme vehicle, but a terrible grinder. I'll start this conclusion by stating pretty definitively that you shouldn't buy this tank unless you have loads of money to blow or just enjoy suffering. The vehicle is powerful, but only in very specific engagements, mainly relying on the close range to negate the poor gun trajectory. While the armour is effective, it is not reliable, and the tank shouldn't be played in the same way as a heavy tank. While the AVRE doesn't get the high levels of protection usually found on heavies, it certainly does get the lack of mobility. Again, it makes the AVRE a poor grinder, as you just aren't fast enough to react to a battlefield. As this is currently the only rank 5 British premium, you don't have much of a choice at the minute, but that is changing. With the second season of the Battle Pass, the Centurion Mark 5-1 is coming to the game. The Mark 5 is essentially the same hull as the AVRE, but with the turret of a Centurion Mark 3. This will be by far the best rank 5 British premium in the game, and you can get it for just 2,000 golden eagles, plus a lot of grinding, providing a significantly cheaper and better performing tank, all while allowing you to grind ranks 1 to 6. Overall, the AVRE doesn't really have that much going for it. Yes, its main round is powerful against lightly armoured opponents, but it just lacks the reliable killing potential that you really need at the highly competitive battlefield of battle rating 7.0. Leave a comment. Alright lads, thank you very much for watching this video. What do you guys think about this vehicle? If you have any questions or suggestions to improve the channel, please feel free to leave a comment below. I now have community memberships enabled on my channel. If you'd like a badge on your name during live streams, as well as access to content early, then consider becoming a member. I'd like to mention that I also have a Twitter account, and can be found at the handle SAKO Sniper. I also have a second channel where I upload live commentary and other non-War Thunder related content. So if you like more laid back videos, my second channel may be more your thing. If you do enjoy these review videos, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. More importantly lads, I hope you have a great day, and thank you very much for watching.